Well, hello everyone. I can see a lot of people connected already, and this is really exciting because I was expecting that we were having a big audience today. So, sometimes we do these webinars and lots of people save their time for the recording, but we could kind of have a feeling that we would have many, many people online today for the level of registrants that we got for this specific webinar. Super excited to be here because it's a really special moment here at Redpoints, and I would say in IP enforcement, legal tech and IP enforcement in general, because we've been having some great news in that sector that I wanted to share with you guys really quickly. We recently closed a Series B round of 12 million with investors from Spotify and Wix and Skype. We've been calling a lot of attention in that sense. And just coincidentally, we got this great mention from Stephen Key. Actually, Stephen Key has been in a webinar with us before last year. This mention in which he directly recommends our solution for anti-counterfeiting here at point 16. Thank you so much, Stephen, for this. If you listen to our webinar later. But going back to the webinar, I really wanted to thank Rob's presence today. Rob and I, we met because he's the founder of the anti-counterfeiting group LinkedIn. And when I considered this talk, we were having a chat about it. I say, you know what? I think that anti-counterfeiting technology is something that attracts a lot of attention. And he said, you know what? I have an article on this subject, so we should totally do a webinar on this. I think you already know a little Rob's background if you took a look at our landing page before, but he has this boutique firm called IP Cybercrime. It's been the sector forever. Really experienced. We had the chance about talking on the issue. He's a member of IACC, of Intel. Rob, thank you so much for being with us today here.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Rob, can you tell me really quickly about the part of the presentation that you're going to be covering soon?
Yeah, basically the presentation, I call it the 5 easy steps to success in online brand protection. It covers kind of the whole gamut from beginning to end, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Great. Before Rob begins, I wanted to give you an idea of what I'll be covering after his presentation. We're going to be talking about keyword monitoring, artificial intelligence, and more specifically machine learning, and how we could apply these kind of technologies for helping IP lawyers and brand protection managers everywhere to do their job more effectively, more cost effectively as well, and more efficiently. So without further ado, Rob, I'm gonna give you the floor, and we're gonna be showing your screen right now. Excited about our presentation. Thank you for being with us today. We'll just wait for a second.
Excellent.
I can see your screen there. Yep.
All right, we're on?
We're on.
Excellent. All right, guys. Well, some of you know me. Just as an introduction here, so you see my contact information. I'm usually pretty available if anybody just has any questions or anything like that. The easiest way to keep in touch with me, though, is through Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram, all using the hashtag or the handle HolmesPI. I also have a HolmesPI.com blog. But okay, here's a situation.
Rob, I forgot to mention, I'm sorry to cut you right there. I forgot to mention that we do accept questions, please. What I usually do, guys, if you have questions, you can share those questions on the platform. I'm going to be picking up for the end of the session, and we like to save at least 15 minutes for those. So please make your questions, and I'll be happy to select those. Really sorry about this, Rob.
Oh, no problem. Okay. Usually when I start this, I'd like to introduce people basically kind of where I came from and what my background is. So here it goes. When I was 12 years old, my father took me to work with him at a swap meet on the Jersey Shore. No, he wasn't a vendor. He was a private eye, hired by brand owners to locate sellers of counterfeit items. I can still remember my first real counterfeit investigation. My dad, standing in a long funnel cake line, handed me a $10 bill and said, "Go buy a t-shirt from that guy." I clumsily approached the booth while the seller, a crusty middle-aged man, provided his anxious crowd with their cheap knockoff souvenir shirts. I selected a green medium shirt with the logo of our client and handed it to him. He said, $5, like a true Jersey native. I can still clearly remember gazing up at his wire-rimmed glasses and sweaty gray mustache while he counted my change. He placed the green t-shirt into a plain shopping bag, evoking the spirit of W.C. Fields, said to me, "Here you go, kid." And then his next anxious customer pushed me out of the way on that hot summer day. So my father was kind of one of the first guys on the Jersey Shore and in New York City who was hunting all the fake sellers. One thing I really like about this particular slide is that article from 1983 in the Philadelphia Inquirer. I was on that raid. I was 12 years old, and I still work for that client today. Now, here's the thing. You would think that I would have just, now you see me now, sorry, you see me now, and you think that I followed that path all the way through. Well, that's not true. After college, I decided to come out to LA to become a stand-up comedian. Turns out, as funny as I thought I was, it just wasn't the career for me. So, like many others, including Michael Corleone, there were circumstances that pulled me back into the family business. So in the 1990s, I found myself in LA working for one of my father's affiliates, conducting raids in Santee Alley and all the places in LA. And during that time, I found myself kind of on the birth of the internet and e-commerce. We're talking like 95, 96 here. And so you kind of get an idea of who I am, of what I've done. I started my own firm in 2001. My company's called IP Cybercrime. It's a family business. My brother and I work together, and we have, we have our employees and everything in our Dallas office. I was also involved in many of the landmark cases. You'll recognize some of these on here. Chloe versus Trade Key was a big home run for brand owners. Louis Vuitton versus Akinoc is one you guys probably cite all the time. But don't think I'm bragging, because here's the thing. Throughout my life, I've kind of considered myself the Forrest Gump of private investigators. I was always in the right place at the right time, and I stepped up to the occasion. All right, so here we are. So since then, I've conducted tens of thousands of investigations. And all of these, or most of these, were into the unauthorized use of trademarks on manufactured goods. In the last 2 decades, we've seen the majority of fakes move from suburban swap meets and urban alleyways to search engines and social networks. As the old adage goes, there really is nothing truly new under the sun. Just like the physical world, the web is populated with standalone stores, virtual flea markets, and hidden alleys. If there is such a thing as a good problem, counterfeiting is one of them. The more profitable your intellectual property becomes, the more profitable it will be to counterfeit. One of the most important needs of a brand owner is the retention and growth of that brand's value. While sales and marketing are focused on increasing sales, the legal and security teams are in place to keep outside entities from leveraging those efforts for their profit. Simply put, you must curtail the problem of infringement to a level that is controllable so you can minimize the exposure the counterfeiters have to their potential customers. Now, here's the first step. Revelation. Okay, and this is something I came up with in 2012. It's a white paper I wrote, just a one-pager, and you guys will have access to that. Conrado will be able to give you that after this presentation. Now, with Revelation, in order to protect anything, you must be on the front lines watching for infringers. Think of this process as similar to the patrol officers you see in your own neighborhood. They watch for suspicious activity, record it, and sometimes intervene. As a brand owner, you must monitor all avenues of commerce. For this, I recommend one of the various tools available, in this case, RegPoints, the sponsor of this webinar. Now that you are ready to explore the e-commerce sites, you can click through to their product catalogs and see that there are infringements all over of your brand. If there are, you'll want to conduct analysis, preserve the data, and cull down the multitude of hits to a manageable group. Once that takes place, it's important to database the who is information, the contact information on the website, the IP addresses, and other data points. Next, you use this data to determine if any of these websites are linked to subjects you've previously opened files on. In addition to e-commerce websites, there are many online marketplaces where counterfeiters also sell their goods. These marketplaces include business to consumer websites, or many of us in the industry call it B2C. Those websites include eBay, Amazon, or Taobao. Business to consumer marketplaces are the closest online example to the real life swap meet. Vendors sell goods at virtual booths while millions of consumers troll down the aisle. Similar to B2C marketplaces, there's been a new surge in the consumer's use of the business to business marketplace, or what we would call B2B. Originally, these websites were created with the intention to connect volume sellers to middlemen who sell goods to retailers. Since the birth of Alibaba, EC21, and DHgate, these marketplace websites have been optimized to attract not only wholesale customers, but normal search engine surfers as well. Over the last few years, using tools, brand owners have been doing a fairly good job patrolling the online marketplaces and reporting infringements. As this happens, counterfeiters, though, they adapt to advertising techniques. They find the most effective ways to post on different places like social networks, such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Many sellers will set up their own branded account on these social networks and post images of goods for sale, a lot of times with the web address printed right on the image. This is the virtual equivalent of somebody walking up to you on a busy street, approaching you with a, "Psst, hey buddy, want to buy a watch?" rolling up their sleeve and showing you all the watches. In the social media world, social media marketing, that's called guerrilla marketing. So to recap, the first step, revelation, is comprised of having a team on the front lines, putting the data together so you can decide what actions to take. And the next step is notification. For those who appear to be first-time offenders, it is best to warn them, to warn their ISP, the registrar, the payment processor, and the above-mentioned marketplaces, if that's applicable. This is a time for most who are not inclined to commit repeat crimes, and or possibly, sometimes these guys, they'll respond, they'll try to mend their ways, but those folks you want to get out in the first tier. This is a notification phase. It's important to record all your leads in the database, because where you can track, you're going to have to want to track exactly who you've notified, and whether they responded, what the response was, and also any other notes that may be necessary if they're flagged in the future. Now, investigation, and that's where a company like mine comes in. So you think about those first two steps as the police force, right, or the army. So the investigation, that's where the special forces come in. So repeat offenders, they already have been put on notice, and they've continued infringing with new knowledge of your methods. And more important, they develop more sophisticated methods. Those methods include better ways to detect their detectors coming. For this group of offenders, you must immediately acquire and preserve as much data as possible. This means an undercover purchase should be made immediately, and a first responder team sent in to the virtual crime scene to obtain the evidence required for later action. If not, most of this evidence will later be gone. I call this the empty crack house theory. You can see one of my articles on my website for that. Once the infringing goods are procured and deemed illegal, the subject must now be notified in person. The most effective way to do this is via the knock and talk, where a local investigator waits for the subject to come home, then knocks on his door and speaks to them with a face-to-face interview, usually in a very civil and persuasive fashion, to make sure the individual knows their further actions will lead to escalation. It's important that much thought is put into implementing this step. A small case like this could turn into a publicity nightmare if an inexperienced investigator handles this step. Remember that proper enforcement must result in an individual being personally held accountable for their actions. Now, the next step, I call this escalation, obviously, because after you've done those first three steps, all this time your revelation process is still being adhered to daily, still drumming up new leads, notifying potential one-timers, logging multiple offenders. Career criminals have continued to offend after being put on notice twice, once in writing and once in person. You must now determine if civil or criminal action is most effective and efficient. Some folks will only respond to the fear of jail. These individuals should be arrested using your local investigator or local law enforcement. Restitution is sometimes awarded in criminal cases and should be pursued if that's applicable. If it appears that the subject may have assets that can be recovered, it's recommended that you pursue civil action with your outside counsel. We've had a lot of success with this throughout the years, partnering with straight through the line with firms like Red Points, then us, then the outside counsel. And this kind of thing really works. It's dynamic. This can be in the form of a draft complaint, and it's crazy. I mean, we had one case recently where, the guy had a massive suit against him, and it made national news. And when you see these, and obviously, if you guys look at my knockoff reports, you'll see, if you go to our website, ipcybercrime.com, and subscribe, you'll actually see a lot of the hits that come from us and other investigators that hold these people accountable. When you see someone goes to jail, someone has some sort of a judgment against them, it actually really does have a lot of weight, especially when they know that your brand is the one that's doing it. And now, my favorite, and I think everyone's favorite, is celebration. Once this system's been implemented and used over a period, you'll find it easier to maintain. From a corporate standpoint, your performance figures can be quantified by soft results and hard results. The soft numbers include brand equity and corporate profits. In my opinion, those are the best numbers because those are the numbers, obviously, they're harder to count, but that is what we're all in it for here. We're all in it to see the client's stock prices go up. Okay? If effective, you will have contributed to this number significantly. The accessibility of counterfeit goods is a regular part of the public's perception of your brand, as well as dilution that your trademark suffers for being seen in unauthorized venues. Hard results begin with recording and comparing the amount of offenders found in the revelation process in the beginning to perhaps 1 year later, once your brand enforcement efforts become more known among counterfeit sellers. As these numbers decline, your repeat offenders will decline to a steady number that'll be expected and predicted on a regular basis as long as your brand has value. This number can stay at this manageable level only if the above process stays in place with the same amount of zeal and consistency as in the beginning. Once your expected numbers are realized, it's a lot easier to determine your quarterly performance. The most important thing is to understand that you must not be disheartened that the problem does not completely go away. It never will. Look at the drug problem. Look at prostitution, gambling, all kinds of crime, break-ins. They don't stop. You can just curtail them to a reasonable level as long as you're consistently following these steps. As long as your brand has value, someone will imitate it. The most important thing is to keep in mind that earnest and consistent performance always works. Although they seem like pixels in a mysterious world, they are still the same slick crooks that have existed since the invention of commerce, and they still respond to good old-fashioned discipline. So that's my part of the presentation. Short and sweet, but I think you guys get the idea. And like I said, I'm a man of some words. I try not to be too long-winded.
Yeah, we talked about this before. It goes straight to the point, Rob. Thank you so much. We had the opportunity of discussing this too before about the surge of counterfeiting on social media. Not a long time ago, I think like a week ago, Facebook actually reported the numbers that they have on counterfeiting entering Facebook. It's our experience here at Red Points as well. There has been this transition from traditional marketplaces to social media. Do you have some overall suggestions to people, to IP lawyers that are facing this issue and maybe they're lacking some strategies there or things that they should be doing in order to better cover those social media channels?
Well, I definitely think technology really is important. I mean, obviously you need tools, but you also need people on the outside. One thing I find, excuse me, very disheartening is the sorry if there's anyone from Facebook on here, but is the inability to report IP infringements on there by the individual user. There used to be, believe it or not, when you saw an ad for counterfeit jerseys or counterfeit Nikes, you used to be able to click on the ad, on the corner of the ad, and report infringement. Now you click on the ad, you can report it, and then it'll say learn more about infringements. So it takes a lot longer for the average citizen to report, which to me is a little strange. But anyway, I have a very enforcement-minded uh, uh, angle. I think the marketplaces could be doing a lot more. So I guess that's kind of my way of saying that lobbying and organizations like INTA and the IACC could have a lot more of an effect in the future.
Oh, it seems to me that the fact that Facebook itself is acknowledging the problem, at least, and I'm sure it's also a public, it's a correct public relations strategy in the sense that look, we are aware of the issue, we have to take care, but that's the right direction to go, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe we need more things, right?
yeah. I think so.
Now, you were mentioning about, and very correctly, the things that only IP lawyers can do. And one of the things that we deal with a lot when we are dealing with the technology side of brand protection is we learn really quickly once you onboard a company like ours that uh, the how important, even for our company here, IP lawyers are. I mean, we are full of IP lawyers, of course, because we need those analysts taking care of what the technology finds and validates before taking action. So what is your feeling there? Like in the investigation part is something that clearly IP lawyers are completely essential. I don't think technology will substitute. Any other insight on that concern of human versus technology in the IP world?
Exactly, and that's where I really like to enunciate the first two steps because that's where technology comes in. It's in the revelation notification points. Obviously, the revelation you have the technology scooping all the data and culling down tens of millions of hits and duplicates to something down to maybe 1,000 hits or even less. And we, as an investigative firm, even the step before the IP Council in many cases, we rely on our clients using tools like that because, we don't handle the mass quantity of hits. We handle those 5 or 10 hits that you guys deem the most important, and that's what we handle. And after that, yeah, the escalation process that always has to be handled by the attorneys because they know exactly what needs to be done in every single jurisdiction. You call your guy, we find out if the guy's in Minnesota, is the guy in, is he in Fallujah? We don't know. Now, we just told you this is where they are. Now your local counsel comes in and they can handle the situation, escalate it to the point where they know that they can actually get something done in that local jurisdiction.
Of course. Look, before I start my part of the presentation, Rob, one curiosity that I had, you were mentioning some mistakes that young or inexperienced lawyers can make when they are investigating and they are in the knock and talk part of the process.
Yeah.
Do you remember something that you could share with us, of course, a mistake that you did in your early career in that step?
Well, I had the benefit of having my father around, so
Okay.
I was always able to kind of follow his lead. And he made a lot of mistakes,
Mhm,
early on, before he got into IP. But
mhm.
what I find is it's always about being the nice guy. I don't know if anyone ever saw the film Roadhouse, but Patrick Swayze plays a guy who kicks a lot of people's butts in a little redneck town. But he says, "Be nice." That's what he tells all the other bouncers, and they're like, "Well, what do you mean, be nice?" He goes, "Be nice until it's time to not be nice." Well, my job as the investigator, and as all the investigators, you're the cooler. You're the one that goes in and negotiates with these folks because, like I said, the publicity side of this could be terrible if you go and threaten these guys. and you have an investigator go there and threaten law enforcement or something like that. So it really has a lot to do with just being cool-headed and being able to negotiate something with these folks.
Get it. Super interesting. I know there are some people in our team watching the webinar. I'm gonna ask them how in the chat while we are talking. If you guys have questions, I know you were curious about our webinar today because it was really related to what we were doing here, the technology part. So people from Redpoints, if you have questions to Rob or to myself, we'll be happy to answer those as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, absolutely. So, Rob, what I wanted to talk about today is trying to make concrete or bring concrete examples of how technology can assist IP lawyers and brand protection managers in their job. And as you said, technology is especially used in the detection part, validation as well. But we were able even to create some systems that assist, sometimes even automatizes, depending on the platform that we are talking about, the removal part as well. It's actually in that part especially is where the machine learning feature comes in. Not only that part, but then on that part as well. And as you already know, machine learning is one of the ways of dealing with artificial intelligence in this case in legal tech. We're going to have a very interesting presentation now in March in Berlin with our VP of product, Tony Perez, in which the title will be Beyond the Buzzword, how you can use artificial intelligence for brand protection. And we like this title a lot. We created it, of course. The organization liked it a lot as well, because nowadays people are just throwing those terms out there without explaining what is artificial intelligence in our case. So I'm going to be happy to tell you, show you on screen a couple of examples of how we apply machine learning, that is artificial intelligence, to brand protection in our technology. We like to call our tool the all-in-one brand protection software because of that, because we were able to apply technology to almost every step of the process, which is assisting and it's increasing the productivity of the IP lawyer and of the brand protection manager in their job. In the end, our job is to provide people like you, like Rob, like people in the audience, the right material for them to take their productivity to the sky and focus on what they do best, and whatever is repetitive and a technology can take better care for themselves, that's what we get in. I passed through the slide already, but just same name dropping, of course, of some of our clients here. Let me get into that part, the most important part today in my presentation, which is the concrete examples of how we use technology in the detection, documentation, of course, the data that you're going to use later that you can use in court, or you can use to investigate even other cases that you have in your firm. It's valuable material for firms and for brand protection managers as well. So the first example that I wanted to give to you is the keyword monitoring feature. This can be sometimes very obvious. This is doing the work that some people do manually, throwing those keywords on marketplaces, Google, social media. And if they have a client, like you can see here, MVNT is a client that we have. They're throwing the name of their brands, of course, but they are throwing synonyms, or they are throwing some articles, some of the assets that we cover for them, right? But we go a little beyond that with the keyword monitoring feature. There is some machine learning here going on as well. So how does machine learning work in this case? So we have the analysts working with the platform, and they are constantly throwing some keywords that they think might bring some opportunities for finding infringements online. Now, our system, Redpoint system, learns over time through that detection and also enforcement history what's going on with that specific account. Now, when you know that, the system is able to tell the analyst, look, if you're looking for these kind of terms, or if you're enforcing these kind of infringements, you might want to be taking a look at other words as well. I don't know, maybe if you're watching for t-shirts, maybe jersey should be there as well. And little by little, you start covering all the keywords that infringers might use over time, even to evade the efforts of anti-counterfeiting, because they realize that red points or your firm are covering those terms, so they're going to look for other ones. And we are keeping an eye on the keyword cycles as we discover them. This is really important because in our case, when we are not dealing through partnerships with IP law firms like yours, sometimes we deal directly with the client. And these kind of contracts, they don't have to be with us for a year or two. They can pay for a month or two and leave. And some clients ask us, but why don't I just stay with you for 1 or 2 months so you can get rid of all the problems that I have online, and then I just leave because you got the counterfeits off. But this is like Rob said before, this is a problem that is always there, and it's really like a virus because we are talking about a digital issue here. So you do need a system like ours that is covering those uh, keywords over time, and quote unquote forever, to make sure that they're not going to come back to keywords that you thought that were done already, to cover keywords that are coming in the future because they are trying to evade your efforts. So this is where machine learning is a real, concrete, and very useful feature for IP lawyers everywhere. I'm going to give you more examples of machine learning later, but before that, just another example of technology that is used for automatic removals. Now, here's a part that I always worried about, because sometimes, because we are using the term automatic removal, it scares a little some people, and I understand that. It's not automatic in the sense that the system is not checking with anyone if this should be removed or not. This is what is the process that is being automated here is the process of onboarding that happens with any client that is looking for anti-counterfeiting services. So when we onboard a client with us, or when we partnership with an IP lawyer or IP law firm, we, of course, like everybody in the sector, we ask them, what are the assets that we are covering, which cases are clear infringements, et cetera, et cetera. So in our platform, we are able to put those indicators that are going to tell us those cases. So we have some examples here of clients that know that some t-shirts are not sold for there is no way a shirt is sold in one specific country, especially for a specific price. So we know that those cases can be taken care of. They are automatically validated by the client because of those criteria. So one natural thing that's going to happen when you start using this process little by little, over by asset after asset, is that you're going to have less and less work over time, because everything that can be taken care of assisted automatically is going to take less time, less human time from the analyst and from the IP lawyer, and that's very useful technology as well. Another one that I wanted to show it to you, all these processes in which keyword monitoring and also machine learning is applied, they show to the analyst as opportunities in alerts. This is really important because this way the analyst knows the opportunity that is coming at the time that they happen. As soon as the machine, the technology analyzes a new suggestion, a new opportunity to avoid brand abuse, an alert comes and lets him or she lets him know. Sorry about that. And this is very important because this is happening in real time. And of course, the data part that is going to be so important for the investigation part of the job that we were talking before with Rob. All the data is on the dashboard for our users, for our clients, so they can use an investigation, so they can use for legal actions, for court actions as well, and the information can be filtered according to the IP lawyer's need. You could look for top infringers as well if that's some information that might interest you. And this is actually a very, very important part of our software, is all the information that we make available to you for you to use for your business and scale your business. Just a quick example of our user-friendly cards that is able to get all the assets, all the cases from different sources and put in the same form of card, it makes it very easy for the validation part specific, because you just open the cards, and as you can see here in this picture, you're saying yes or no, this is a counterfeit or not. Either at the analyst level or at the client level, it makes it very useful, very really quick to use, and it requires really no training because it's really user friendly. Another picture on the analysis part, in which data is made available to IP lawyers who are partnering with Redpoints or to our final clients. And just a quick example of where we can find those IP infringements on our database. We have a database with over 5,000 websites, marketplaces, social media channels. Of course, the main ones are covered. We can always add new ones depending on the new clients, but we are making a terrific job in creating those algorithms by marketplaces, by social media channels, and little by little covering the whole internet, right? I invite you guys to take a look at our website later. We have these excellent videos with our clients in which they're saying the advantages of having a product like Redpoints and how they are able to protect their brands. Now there are some very, very interesting stories like Knock Around. There is one that I like a lot, which is Foot Huggers. They managed to release their product through crowdfunding, through Kickstarter, and they realize that they have counterfeits even before the real release. So we are super happy that we get to protect these brands and protect their reputation and even the consumers, because as you know better than I do, their health is at stake with these counterfeits. Some facts and figures to see how successful we are, and some we're being able to do a great job there in the brand enforcement and the brand protection. And I'll be happy to answer questions if you have later. I forgot to put my email here, but my email is clamas, Lamas. You can look for me on LinkedIn, on Twitter as well, Conrado Lamas. I'm the VP of Communications at Redpoints. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, or if you have further questions in the future, to Rob as well. Rob, I wanted to thank you so much for your presentation today and for sharing your ideas with us.
Absolutely. This is my passion, man.
And like you promised, we're going to upload the presentation on our website. We're going to make this video available again, and also the article that you wrote on IP enforcement technology.
Great.
Okay, guys, if you have any questions, just reach us on Twitter, email. I'll be happy to answer those. Okay, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks a lot, everybody.
Bye.